Para darle kickoff un poco a esta primera parte, vamos a ir al primer speaker del día con su keynote. Una eminencia, es un honor presentar a Greg Barber, que es el director de producto de redacción del Washington Post y es el cofundador del Coral Project, proyecto súper importante para la comunidad. Greg, how are you? Thank you for joining us today.
I'm doing well, Gaston. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Please go ahead. All the audience is yours.
All right. Thanks very much. Let me share my screen real quickly, and then we can get off to the races. So hello from Arlington, Virginia in the United States, and the chair in my dining room where I am spending way too much time lately. I'm Greg Barber, the director of newsroom product for the Washington Post. Normally, I would be coming to you from here with my coworkers, but this year I'm coming to you from here with a more surly coworker. I'm glad to be talking with you on this day devoted to product, because in this year of forced separation, the role of product is more important than ever. We're the people who bring other people together, even when being physically together isn't possible. I'll talk with you about three main topics today. One, what is newsroom product? What have we done lately? And then what's next? So at the Washington Post, the newsroom product team is a group of force multipliers. We work across teams to listen, to help define the problems we want to solve, to organize the people who work together, and to communicate so that everyone inside the team and stakeholders outside of it are aware of our progress, and then iterate to be sure that the product that we're creating reaches a high standard of quality. I've worked at the intersection of journalism and technology for about 20 years, and the skill that I've learned that I use the most is this one: translation, says the guy who's speaking at Media Party in English. But stick with me on this one. The most successful product people at the Post, inside and outside the newsroom, are fluent in multiple languages: journalism, software engineering, advertising, marketing. We help people connect, and that connection helps keep our projects on track. So, what have we done lately? Well, we're helping readers to make sense of this virus that's upended all of our lives. Early in our coverage of the coronavirus entering the United States, at just about the time that we were starting to work remotely, I heard colleagues talking about this mythical set of internal data that everyone in the building was trying to get their hands on. Turns out it was from my colleague, Jacqueline Dupree. She had started collecting state case and death data by hand, going to websites and just surfacing this data, finding it, and putting it into a Google spreadsheet. Reporters from around the room found her work invaluable, and we knew that our readers would too, but that this approach, one person, Google spreadsheet, wouldn't scale. So, working with Jacqueline, my team gathered people from around the newsroom, designers from our graphic team, reporters from our investigative group, data analysts, and the engineering team that had just finished a database to house our election results. So then together, within 6 weeks, we built a database using that initial database from our election results to serve coronavirus data gathered by Post reporters and from external sources. Today, readers can use our tools to explore the impact of coronavirus at the local, national, and international levels. When our readers flocked to an explainer from graphics reporter Harry Stevens about how diseases like coronavirus spread so quickly, we realized that we had a story that could help people around the world. So my team helped form a group to translate that story and work with news organizations around the world to promote it. In the end, we published the piece in 17 different languages, and it's been viewed by many millions of people. When investigative reporter Andrew Tran came to us with word from an expert source that more people had likely died from coronavirus in the US than was being officially reported, we knew we had a complicated story on our hands that would take time and coordination to get right. So my team gathered and launched a working group of reporters, editors, artists, and analysts, people from across the newsroom. But then we also brought in a team of epidemiologists at schools like Yale and Harvard to kick off a series of stories informing readers about the concept of excess deaths, which is an uptick in the number of deaths expected from certain causes or at certain times of year that can indicate the impact of a new or external factor. These stories helped readers understand the true impact of coronavirus, while healthcare providers and governments were still working out their best practices. And now, of course, you can't have a speaker from the US without us talking about our upcoming election. And my team is deep into supporting our work on that massive story. Most important is helping readers to understand where candidates stand on the issues. Our graphics team launched a pair of tools to help voters choose among presidential primary candidates. This was back some months ago, based on their views on issues like gun control, education, climate change, healthcare, and more. They also launched a quiz that helped readers pick a candidate based on their shared views. Coronavirus has prompted changes to how and when US states allow voting by mail, and there's much misinformation being disseminated on this topic. So to make sure that our readers understand how and when they're able to vote, our graphics team launched this interactive tool. It gives state-by-state information about how to register to vote, when ballots will be mailed in certain states, and deadlines for returning ballots. Does my vote matter is still a question being asked by many Americans. To show how every vote can indeed influence this upcoming election, we launched a tool to help readers understand the impact of fluctuations in voting by age, race, gender, and more. And then just this week, on Wednesday, I think it was, we launched the ability for our reporters to file short bursts of analysis to our political live blogs. Tuesday, it was Tuesday, bringing the best of analysis that you'd find on Twitter directly to the pages of the Washington Post. Readers can keep up with the campaign's moves and issues by subscribing to the trailer, anchored by political reporter Dave Weigel. And our reporters lend their voices to clear, audible analysis on a feed that brings together the best of our political podcasts. So, what do all of these projects have in common? They had a clear problem that needed to be solved. So we needed to take our coverage of coronavirus data and scale it. We needed to show readers how to cast a mail-in ballot. We wanted to tell the story of excess deaths and needed a lot of external expertise to do it. There was the institutional will to solve these problems. Our managing editors, Cameron Barr and Emilio Garcia Ruiz, were the wind at our backs for our coronavirus coverage. And our engineering teams were willing to bend their roadmaps to accommodate coverage of this incredible story. We found that we were all motivated. It was that same spark that led all of us to careers at the Washington Post as editors or reporters or technologists that brought us together for these projects. We were persistent. We were collegial. We bridged gaps left by our sudden dispersing for remote work through Slack and Zoom, each taking upon ourselves to make sure that we were communicating. Which brings me to a piece of advice that I'll tuck into the middle of this presentation. The secret to success as a convener of people in a news organization, in my experience, is trust. In a role like mine, you're always asking others to take calculated risks with limited newsroom resources, because they're always limited, right? So it's managers, it's editors, it's reporters. With each step, you need to prove that you're worthy of that investment. You need to research your idea and make sure that it's solid. Estimate work accurately and update those estimates regularly. Be honest about successes and failures. Radical transparency. Always communicate what the organization should learn from what you've done. Trust is the key. Time working with you should always be time well spent. Okay, enough of the advice. What's next for us at the Post? Well, I'll show you our empty newsroom again for this one. We're figuring out how to cover an election with a fully remote newsroom. Normally, that space right there would be full on election night, and it won't be in November. So it takes a different kind of coordination that's keeping all of us on our toes, Slack channels and Zoom rooms and email chains, ensuring everyone has access to up-to-date information and the colleagues that they need for collaborations. It's an exciting challenge. And I hope that this time next year, I'll have a great story to tell you about it. Amid a reckoning about race and representation in the US and around the world, news organizations are making long overdue internal changes. At the Post, we're hiring for more than a dozen reporters and editors to fuel diverse coverage, including a managing editor for diversity and inclusion. My team has already started scoping out tools that we can use to streamline our hiring and enliven our coverage. I'll say, though, that I'm proud of the work my colleagues are doing today on this topic, including this resource package pointing to Post reporting on the history of injustice and inequality, which you can dig through by topic. I'm also keen to see what my colleagues have in store for About Us, which is a stream of reporting on identity, politics, and culture. You can find them there on Twitter. In 2021, my team will kick into high gear our ongoing work to add features and workflow improvements to our CMS, along with our colleagues in Washington Post Engineering and in ARC, our software as a service content management provider. Because of ARC, I'm guessing this CMS screen grab might look familiar to quite a few of you. We survey our newsroom twice a year for feedback about the CMS, what people like about it, what people don't like, features they'd like to see. Our next survey is actually coming out next month. And so we've got quite a backlog of ideas. But most of all, we'll be listening. And then the cycle starts again. So thanks so much for listening to me today. If you've got thoughts, ideas, or questions, please feel free to reach out via email or Twitter.
So, Greg, thank you very much for the presentation. It was quite helpful. I'm sure that everyone in the room is going to gather some thoughts from you. So thank you very much. I have a quick question.
Sure.
What do you think that this was the most challenging part of the product design process or the product generation in times of COVID? If you have to pick the most challenging one for us to share.
Yeah, at the beginning of it, it was communicating. So we were really used to a key part of our product collaboration process was bringing people together in a room. And there's quite a lot that you miss from not having that moment of collaboration, that sort of moment of being able to kind of feed off of each other's energy. And we had to, not to get too mystical about it, but we had to find a way to kind of replicate that in this sort of an experience. And I think it really was all of us kind of learning the timing of how do I communicate now? How do I make sure that that the people that I'm working with understand what I'm trying to say about, whether it's an opinion about a project or a status report about where I am. One of the challenges, I'm sure every person who's worked in product that's on this call knows this one. One of the challenges that you have is keeping track of a project, asking that "Are we there yet?" question without seeming like you're poking someone in the shoulder and annoying them, right? So it was a whole new kind of cadence of that when we're all separated so much by distance.
So it makes sense. It makes sense. And if you mix that with trust, the thing that you were mentioning in your presentation, is there any specific tool that you think that could help to provide more transparency between the co-workers, the newsroom in general? A specific tool?
It's not as much I wouldn't say that there's a specific tool to introduce because I don't think we're at that point yet or at that point now. I think because we are all dispersed, it's really a matter of meeting your audience where they are, right? So, and in this case, your audience is your set of coworkers. So if everybody's on Slack, then you're talking on Slack. If people don't use Slack and you can't get them to do it, now there's no walking around the newsroom and sort of pointing their head at it, right? You have to they're all in separate spaces. So really, this is the stage where we have to just meet our colleagues where they are. And so at the Washington Post, we use Slack a lot. We really embraced Zoom. And so it's really and we still cling to email in ways that still depress me. So I think that it's really a matter of knowing which tools you need to use in order to reach that right set of people, and knowing which tools to use for the right kind of conversation, right? So if there's one of the biggest mistakes I see is, people will send via email a question that requires everyone to answer. And then suddenly you have this sort of disjointed conversation where people are trying to catch in, and it's the email chain that will never die. Yes. It's kind of choosing the correct tool for the kind of conversation you want to have. But I think at this point, we're going to need to wait until we're out of this posture in order to really try anything new.
Greg, again, thank you very much for your presentation. It was illuminating. So I hope you do great and you be safe at home.
Thanks so much. And the same to everyone out there. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bueno, la verdad, Greg, un fenómeno, un honor, un genio, una eminencia en el mundo del producto. La verdad es que un placer poder escucharlo y tener la media parte otra vez. Es algo que para mí es increíble.